Life could be a comedy or a tragedy. It all depends on your point of view. The Trick is Knowing When to Laugh by Erma Bombeck. Read by Karl. A lot of people think I write humor, but then I know a woman who thinks Maria Osmond and her relatives are depressed. As a observer of the human condition, all I do is question it. I rarely find it funny. For example, how come pans never have any ink in them except when they get on the washer by mistake and the entire laundry turns blue? Why do they waste silicone on an ironing board cover? How can the owner of a vicious dog look at his dog baring his teeth and know he is smiling? Why is there a rectal thermometer in my sewing basket? Why do I assume those two doves nuzzling in the trees are married? Maybe they're just fooling around. How come the first thing I noticed in the doctor's office is whether or not his plants are dead? Okay, so maybe my threshold of laughter is low. If you can find anything funny in the following items, I'll make a book out of them. Microphones. If there's anything in this world as fiercely independent as a microphone, I don't know what it is. I mean, imagine the year is 1776. At the Provincial Convention in Virginia, statesman Patrick Henry rises to his feet to make an impassioned plea for liberty or death. He approaches the microphone and the entire assembly awaits his first words as he asks, "Can everyone in the back hear me?" These 7 words preceded more speeches than the proverbial cocktail hour. In 10 years of lecturing, I've seen microphones go from an occasional passive screech to real screaming militancy. To begin with, microphones do not like to be touched by union or otherwise. Because I'm short, I tried to address one the other week. I gave it just a simple tweak, mind you, and it went as limp as a $2 permanent in a sauna. I gave the entire speech from a squatting sprinter's position. Some microphones work great as long as you blow into them. So you stand there like an idiot blowing and saying, "Are we on? Can you hear me?" Everyone admits they can hear you blowing. It's only when you speak the microphone goes dead. Unless you have a weird sense of humor, there are punchline poopers. You've been selling along with a 3-minute story, building to a big pitch, and just as you say, "So why isn't the dog drinking his daiquiri?" the microphone goes silent and you're left muttering, "Gee, I guess you had to have been there." Some speakers spend half their lives looking for the on-off switch on microphones. There aren't any. I look for them under the light, on the shelf, on the side, the gooseneck, off stage. I suspect many of them are triggered by a remote control in an 1936 pickup truck in the garage across from the auditorium. I've been warned that microphones are super sensitive. You have to talk right into them to be heard. These are usually the ones that cross you up by picking up your entire lunchtime conversation, including, "My God, do you mean the management is charging you $10 for lunch? Have they never heard of the Geneva Convention?" Some speakers, more secure than I, have dared to make fun of microphones. Recently, book columnist and reviewer Bob Cromie spoke in our town and opened with the traditional, "Can everyone in the back hear me?" Then someone yelled, "No." He said, "How do you know what I asked?" All that long, that microphone floated towards the door. Didn't surprise me a bit. No one wins. Do you ever notice how in reporting sports, no one ever wins a game? They crush, stomp, triumph, trounce, bomb, outscore, outclass, overthrow, run over, edge out, hammer, and victimize, but they never use the word win. The internet is for a sportscast where there was 3 assaults, 4 upsets, 1 humiliation, a squeaker, and a rout. I said to my husband, "These guys must be fed intravenously by a thesaurus every night to come up with all these words that mean win." "They have to," he said. "You get bored hearing who won all the time." "But that's not the way people talk," I complained. "Can't you just see some 230-pound guard being interrupted at halftime saying, 'We came to best Pittsburgh. This moment we're not overwhelmed by as much as we'd hoped, but sooner or later we hope to vanquish. After all, as Vince Lombardi said, subduing is everything.'" "You should talk," he said. "How come one of the society pages never gets married?" "What are you talking about?" "I've read those stories before. They exchange vows, say nuptials, or pledge I do's, but they never get married. That's different." "Why different?" "We're talking about saying what we mean. When we got engaged, I suppose you called up your best friend and said, 'Hey, Dottie, guess what? I'm going to plight my troth in August.' I think plighting a troth is rather poetic. Certainly not the Raiders smothering their opponents or the Jets clobbering theirs." "Hey, Grant, it might be fun if society pages showed as much imagination as they do in the sports pages. Can you just imagine reading where Betty Smidlap cruised by four ugly bridesmaids that are to overtower her opponents and cap a victory in the bridegroom open in the outset of the year? It's a stupid argument, I said. I don't want to continue it. Just say I won and we'll forget it. He sat there thinking. See, I continued. You haven't heard the word win in a song. You can't remember how it goes. Let's see, he said. Let's just say in the sports vernacular, you persuaded your opponent it was in his best interest to lose. The unmailed letter. I found a letter to my sister the other day I had forgotten to mail. It just needed a little updating to send. After the baby I crossed out toilet trained and wrote in graduating from high school this month. And the PS where I'd written, I found my first gray hair today. I ran a line through gray and substituted black. The rest of the letter was still current. I'm on a diet as my skin does not fit me anymore. The children are rotten. I'm slipping away from reality. I'm going to paint the bathroom and write to the rest of the family next week. The trouble with me is I don't like to write letters until I have something exciting to report. I'm intimidated by letter writers whose correspondence electrifies you. I have one group of friends who only write to me once a year, from a cruise ship. They know it's going to make me spit up with jealousy. They write cute little messages that begin, love, thinking of you as the island hop, and then with, must dash, a Robert Redford lookalike has been chasing me all over the ship. Other pen pals I can live without are the people whose children are overachievers. Their letters are filled with news of Bobby who just won a being scholarship to Harvard. He's so exceptional, all he has to do is sit there and breathe for 4 years. Then there's also 9-year-old Rachel, who is competing in the baton Olympics, makes all her own clothes, just sold a first story to Reader's Digest, going to spend her entire summer reading the Bible. And don't forget little Kenneth, who gets up during the night to change his own Pampers. The letter writers who really bug me there are the ones with the stationery whose paper matches the envelopes. Sure, it's easy to write a letter when you have all the equipment, but for me it's a real hassle finding clean paper, a pencil, and a stamp. I found a letter from my sister in the mailbox today. She crossed out, I'm glad the war is over, and substituted Christmas. She said she loved her new Edsel, which she ran a line to and added Datsun, and added she was going to clean her oven as we were approaching a month with an R in it. My sister and I related through recessive writer's cramps. Killing your mother. My son never fails to amaze me. At age 21, he has come up with a new way to break his neck. It's called a skateboard. Frankly, I'm tired. Dedicated my entire life to keeping that kid whole. In a time in life when I should be eating chocolate sandwiches and getting up at the crack of noon, I'm a bundle of nerves. It started with a two-wheel bicycle. As I ran along beside him, clutching a sweater with one hand and the bicycle seat with the other, I yelled, "You could kill yourself on this thing." Sure enough, my house got in the spokes and I almost made a wheel out of myself. The bogus steak was worse. As I sprung about the house, he said inches from the ceiling. I tried to shield him from falling into a lamp and he lost his balance, pinning me between the floor and his body, causing me severe pain. When he wanted a horse, I tried to warn him I just wasn't up to it. But did he listen? He did not. As I led the beast around by the reins, I was repaid for my vigilance by being stomped on by a 1,500-pound horse. "We are not going out for football," I told him the summer of his 15th birthday. "What do you mean what's that got to do with me? I'm your mother. If you want to kill your mother, I can't stop you. But every Mother's Day, mark my words, you're going to feel just terrible." I carry with me today a trick knee suffered when I ran on the playing field with an extra mouthpiece to protect $1,500 worth of braces. It never ended. He jumped up the high board at the pool just to give me stomach cramps. As soon as I thought I had myself under control, he came home with his learner's permit to drive. The only boy I know who's given a ticket for speeding, in reverse. I thought all of it was behind me till the other night when he was leaving the house with his little board with the wheels under his arm. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Trying to find an empty swimming pool, a hill, or a paved ditch. Then I'm going to balance myself on this little board up the side of it until I fall off." I climbed on the skateboard, clutched around the waist, and closed my eyes. "Why don't you like your mother?" I whimpered. The end.